Hi, Guido Fox here. Welcome by a new book report. Today I want to talk with you about this book, Suicidal Empathy from Gad Saad, a Jewish author, an evolutionary psychologist, and he talks about the ongoing mass immigration in the Western world, especially in West Europe and the USA. And he talks about the dangerous mechanism, about the suicidal empathy, about how the Western world is falling down in cultural views, economy views, and maybe also in civil war dynamics. Not so nice, wonderful, healthy, spiritual topic, but more about society related issues, right? Although also in your personal life, you can experience suicidal empathy when you are dealing all the time with toxic people in your surroundings. You also going down the drain, you're losing energy all the time, and ultimately you can also have some kind of energetical way suicide because you're constantly empathic with the people in your surroundings and you're losing yourself fully. So also in your personal life you can experience suicidal empathy. So also there is a relationship between personal development and a kind of society dynamics, right? When you're constantly caring and try to caring about the whole world, what we see in our Western countries, constantly letting people in from the third world, constantly playing the Mother Teresa role here, and it is drain our energy, and our energy is ultimately empty, and we cannot share real love and caring anymore for the whole world because we are empty, right? That is the small case here with the ongoing mass immigration in the Western world after World War II. um, Mass immigration, I saw it already when I was 13 years old in the schools. I saw it in my old neighborhood. I saw it around me, and at a very young age, I was already interested in the topic of mass immigration. And of course, in the schools, they never talked about it. It was always about people are flying away from war and violence, and we have to take care for them without any critical questions. So you're raised up in the matrix conditionings where there were no questions about mass immigration, and we let it all over it, right? And the basic question, and I was thinking about it yesterday and 5 years ago too, but I was preparing my book report here, is the question why? And that's a very philosophical question. It's a very from the Greece ancient wisdoms, right? From why we are doing things. That is the basic scientific university PhD question you ask before a research or before a social transformational big thing, what a lot of money is involved by the mass immigration. Because the most people are coming into social security, they're not going to earn a lot of money, so they're not big taxpayers. So there are a lot of money involved, a lot of cost involved. So always when you're doing things like the mass immigration, there is some big and big question why. And in my opinion, this Greece, Roman Empire, old question never ask. So we're doing in the Western society everything like scientific. We're doing all our PhDs in the university. We're all sending why question, but by this question not. There is, if you're going deeper, and there are nice people who are coming to our countries, and maybe they smile sometimes to us. Probably yes, but there is deeply no why to transfer millions and millions of people to other sides of the world. There is no why, and I will tell you why. Why there is no why? Because A, there are brain drains in the society. What you see is that you get people from other countries with a lot of brains. First, a brain drain, and they are empty. You need the brains in those countries to build up the countries, to transform those countries, to make the countries better. So if you import people from the third world to the Western world, then there's nothing left in those countries anymore. You need the people there to transform their countries, to build up those countries even after war. So the brain drain is going on, is going on, is going on, and you create a kind of empty countries where nothing happens. So you can better invest in those countries to build up with companies, to innovate those countries, to help them and support them. You're not helping those countries in the third world to let a bunch of people in our society. So now I talk about the high-skilled people. So the high-skilled people are necessary to build up their countries in their world, because they also drag the low-skilled people and the middle-skilled people higher in their education, innovation, and spiritual development. So when the high class or the upper class is moving to the first world, there's nothing left in those third world countries. So it's a bad solution. Now I talk about the low-skilled people. When you import a lot of low-skilled people in the first world, what we did the last 50, 60 years, a lot of low-skilled people are coming here. They're not integrating very well. At a certain moment, they're fed up with their low-skilled work and going into social welfare. So you can also talk about the productivity about those people. So not only about social cultural integration objects, but also about the integration process, and also about the productivity about low-skilled people. Also, the low-skilled people in the third world are necessary there to build up the country, to make buildings, to do agricultural work for food production. So if you drag the low-skilled people in those countries also there, you ruin the third world. It's very bad to transfer so many low-skilled people towards the first world. You need those people there. Another reason why you don't need to shift with low-skilled people all over the world is that it blocks innovation. That's a very interesting point. If you're constantly transport low-skilled people into your society, the cost of labor stays very low, and you have no incentive as a company owner to invest in that robot, to invest in AI, to invest in innovation to make the production process efficient. So also you don't help the third world countries because the people are needed there, and you don't support the first world. So there are 3-4 reasons why the whole mass immigration and transport people constantly over the world is unnecessary, is non-productive, and also qua integration and cultural difference, I talk later about it, it is a really suicidal mechanism to implement in the world. It is unnecessary to transport millions, billions of people over the world. It's ruining the third world countries. It's ruining the first world countries. So it's not good for the world to do this mass immigration. There are 3 words. So the whole why is not there, right? So the why of mass immigration, there is no why to do this at the first stage, right? Even if people are integrated very well and even they support us in our societies, even there is no why, because it's better to stay where you are and build up your country and make your country the best country in the world. And sometimes, yes, there is war. Sometimes, yes, there is a bad regime. But try to resist in your own country. Try to find people to go against a stream. And sometimes, yes, life is sometimes hard, right? And of course, if for a dangerous situation, you can temporarily go somewhere else, and we create safe harbors in the countries around you. And when the war is over, then you go back to your own country to build that country up again. There are 3 things, 3 words, what is very interesting in the story from God Saad. One is suicidal empathy. That's a very interesting word, suicidal empathy in relation to the mass immigration. The second word is moral self-fulfillment. Write that word down, moral self-fulfillment. The third one is inverse morality. Write that down. Suicidal empathy, moral self-fulfillment, and number 3, inverse morality. Later, I want to talk with you more about suicidal empathy. Now I want to talk a little bit about moral self-fulfillment. The more left liberal elites suffer deeply from moral self-fulfillment. They're feeling themselves so good to take care about the whole world. It's a kind of Mother Teresa syndrome. They take on their shoulders and say, wow, so amazing, we take care of refugees, we give them food, I'm feeling myself so good when I'm doing this. It's a kind of moral self-fulfillment. Short explanation right here by the self-fulfillment. The third one is inverse morality. Interesting term. Moral self-fulfillment nearly always related to inverse morality. Inverse morality means that you're taking care in the overdrive for immigrants, for people who are coming to your country, for refugees, the Mother Teresa syndrome, the helper syndrome, and you lost totally the care of your own people, your own sheeps, your own taxpayers, the people who are ages and ages in your country, the people who build up this civilization, the people who grow up here from young ages, and their parents, their grandparents, their grandparents are here and work their ass off to set up here a civilization, a Western civilization with the beautiful buildings, with the juridical systems, with the courts we have, with the governments, with the democracy we placed here. The people who are ages and ages here, they didn't give attention to them. Inverse morality. So you take care of the people who are far away, very easy, but you lost totally sight of the people who are close by you. And you see that mechanism by the homeless people in the Netherlands. You have 50,000 homeless people in the Netherlands. No house, no food, no job, addicted to alcohol, sleeping in parks, and no one take care of them. Refugees, hotel, wash machine, they're coming here, they have free access to food, free access to healthcare, and you lost view about your own citizens who are here homeless and walking around and grabbing from dustbins to survive. So you see here what Gatsat is mentioned typically in relation to the mass immigration, to the constantly influx of people from the third world, that you lost your own people, you lost your own taxpayers, you lost your own business owners, your middle class, you lost even your 50,000 people who are sleeping on the streets and have no shelter. So that is the inverse morality. That is the moral self-fulfillment. You see, I take care for the people from the third world. I take care for them, but I lost my own people who are sleeping on benches and parks and they have really, really nothing. So that's a little bit about the inverse morality, right? The best way is to take really care of your own people, and if you have oversharing love, if you have oversharing wealth, then you take care a little bit for the people who are outside your region, right? A nice sentence in his book is, "The road to hell is paved with good intentions." So I believe people have good intentions, but this way of putting your good intentions in one way, in the mass immigration way from the third world, is paved to hell. So Gatsat is right here. And in Dutch you have a sentence, it's soft healings makes deep rooted stinky wounds. And that's what's going on here in the mass immigration, right? A totally uncontrolled mass immigration could ultimately lead to civil war because we never act accurate to control the borders and to put people away who are not productive and who are not really an economic-wise added value, who are not added value towards our society. So soft healings makes deep, stinky wounds and ultimately leading towards a hell mechanism. And that's what Gatsat also describes in his books, is that we are actually we're going from the Homo economics guy to the Homo empathy guy. So we were first in the 16th, 17th, 18th century. We had an enlightened period in our Western civilization, and we were very calculated. We calculate what's the plus and the minus from an action, from a decision. And we changed from an empathic, we changed towards an empathic person instead of being rational. And that leads to the fall of the West, going towards a downward spiral in our Western civilization, because we changed our kind of character, our personality towards an empathic person who wants to take care of the whole world. So actually, we have to go back a little bit towards our 17th, 18th, 16th century mentality, where we were more being a businessman, right? So the Western businessman or businesswomen, I'm sorry, has to go back in our minds and in our actions. So what is the calculation of the mass immigration behind? And we have to take action to really go into remigration, to send people back, what I told you, the high-skilled people, and even high-skilled people coming from Spain or Italy or whatever kind of EU country. Also there, we have to send people back, the high-skilled people, the low-skilled people, to build up their own countries and make the whole world a paradise, right? That's the whole goal we have all together, and we share together, that the whole world has to be a paradise and not only a few first world countries. I want that whole the world becomes a first world, right? I want that become Bangladesh super rich. I want that become South Africa or Middle Africa countries become super rich. I want that they become all rich. And therefore, you need the high-skilled people, the middle-skilled people, and the low-skilled people in those countries, and not drag them away to the only few first world countries. Very good chapter in the book is about, it all starts with good empathic attitudes. He actually tells in a chapter what is good about to be an empathic guy or woman. And he is there very genius, putting the question the other way around. He talks about suicidal empathy. There's a very negative view. And now he turns around his own mind thinking from actually what is good about an empathic guy or empathic attitude or empathic women. What is good about to be empathic? Why people are empathic? He starts with the why question, right? I start with the question why. There's senseless why we have the mass immigration, but he asked the question why people are empathic. Why people, the left-wing liberals mostly nowadays, why they try to be empathic. I talked with you about moral self-fulfillment. That's one thing, to show off that you are taking care of the whole world. This is some ego fulfilling role people are playing. From look at me, I share my money, I share my help to refugees, to immigrants. I send money to the other bank accounts, to the other world, to the third world, to support them. Look how good I am. I can share it on family parties to show off how good I am. But there's some other mechanisms why people want to be empathic, and that is your social role, and that's how you are conditioned. Because if you're an empathic person, it is very nice to play that role. And I saw it in the universities, I saw it in the high schools, I saw it in the matrix systems. If you're an empathic person, you have more friends. If you're nice and you give something to another person, mostly you get something back, or you get a relationship to that person. If you share, you get something back. Maybe there comes an transmission there comes some trade, and you make friends. So if you're conditioned, also it's very attractive to be empathic, because you make friends. But if you're telling the truth, you can easily losing friends, right? So it is not easy to look to the facts and you see, oh, the mass immigration doesn't work. There's very people living on social welfare and cost $500,000 in their lifetimes, and we're paying as taxpayer that amount. You can lose friends. If you're saying the truth, you can lose friends. But if you're being empathic, you can make friends, and the friends can be later, and your colleagues and your business partners can be a network. So that is also what this evolutionary psychologic guy was writing down in his work, is that an empathic conditioning is very attractive for business, for friends, to be popular into groups. So therefore, people are empathic, shaped, indoctrinated, manipulated, how you name it, to be an empathic person. So you cannot, if you understand it, this mechanism, you can understand more how left and liberal people are thinking, right? To be popular, to be nice, to make a network. You're dependent on your business network. You don't want to lose friends. So it is also a kind of fear mechanism by people to say the truth. If they say the truth, they can't lose network, they're losing friends, and only strong people mostly are making this trade-off solution. There's trade-off mechanisms to going more in the factual truth and take the risk to lose your business network or to lose your friends, to tell the true or your own opinion towards the world, right? So that's the reason why people are empathic, conditioned by the matrix, next to fulfill their ego, fulfilling empathic role, social role in their society. And two words are interesting. He mentioned here the Messianic savior complex. That is more linked with the Christian influence. Totally misunderstood, by the way. Jesus Christ, was always talking about put your chin away when violence are coming, or always take care about your neighbors. That that's misunderstood. Jesus was talking about self-love and walk away from situations who are not compatible for you. So he's talking first about self-love, about ecstaticness, and then you're able to share. And now you see the Christian mentality is always giving and giving, 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 but now it's giving from emptiness and about a false savior messianic complex. So also Christianity is a little bit involved in this helper syndrome to always take care about your neighbors and neighbor love, but totally forget the real concept in Christianity is first self-love, totally accept yourself, love yourself first, always, otherwise your helpers, your love for your neighbors will be a toxic empathy thing and will be more an helper syndrome and going into more the personal disorder way. And that's interesting what he is writing down on page 5. We're only on page 5. I go into different pages in the book, right? But well, most people typically associate empathy with a lack of empathy. There are numerous psychiatric disorders that involve hyper empathy. So a lot of people were thinking that if you have a lack of empathy, you're totally not care of someone else, then you have a disorder. But he wrote in his work that hyper empathy people who are constantly taking care of others are also related to disorders. So you see that also hyper helper syndromes are a lot of people who constantly wants to help others, are inner empty, have no self-love, and constantly wants to give to other people without caring for themselves, and that becomes a very toxic empathic relationship. So that's what you see in psychological way, that people are really suffering about helper syndrome, and that is what you see also in the Western world. We are suffering as countries from helper syndromes, and we missed self-love. We have no love for our countries. We have no love for our people. The inverse morality. We are not taking care of our own people. We missed self-love. We are insecure. We are suffering from our higher class is suffering from moral self-fulfillment. And we suffer from suicidal empathy, to let all those people inside with a risk of religious and civil war. And even the Buddhist Rinpoche was saying this whole experiment, this mass immigration experience from after World War II is an idiot compassion. So even the Buddhistic world, the spiritual Buddhistic world, Rinpoche was saying it's an idiotic compassion. Idiotic compassion. And even the Dalai Lama said that Europe must be stay Europe. Also there, it's nothing wrong to have healthy borders. You have your own house, also borders. You have a key in your door to protect your own environment. Borders are part of life. Nothing wrong to have strict borders to protect your way of life and to take care of the people who are here already ages and ages and who build up this civilization and this consciousness field, right? So from civilization, there is an energetic field. It's a high consciousness field, what's built up by years and years, ages and ages. We were going to this enlightenment stages, and that's not the case by the third world. And totally not the case by the third world. We were building up this high energetic, high society. And the people who are coming in are mostly on social welfare, but they're also stealing our energy. We are leakage our high spiritual energy towards them, and we are empty. We are now on the brink. We are on a turning point. We are empty. We cannot give anymore. We are financial empty. We are cultural empty. We are energetic empty, and we cannot suffer any more longer with this ongoing mass immigration from the third world. And on page 18, it's also kind of narcissism, right? It is very ego fulfilling to take care of the whole world. So this evolutionary psychologic guy is talking about the narcissism behind, from okay, we're shoving us, we're doing this, the addiction to suffering, and to show the whole world that we can take care is a very outcome of a narcissistic personal disorder of hyper empathic behavioral patterns, right? The narcissism of the mirror of moral purity, the mirror of progressive moral purity. Remember this sentence: the mirror of progressive moral purity, to show the world how good we are, and forgot our own people, the inverse morality, because we are suffering from moral self-fulfillment. Moral self-fulfillment. And I was thinking about the statue, right? Where a big guy is having the whole world, his ball on his shoulders, and you see it sometimes on statues in Amsterdam too, on the palace, and he's suffering and he's suffering and he's suffering, and it's the kind of Christ suffering, the constantly suffering, and show the world the Messianic Savior complex that we have to suffer all the time. Why we have to suffer from the whole world? That Savior complex has to go out, and it's also misunderstood. Christ was not suffering for us all. Christ was suffering to go through his old traumatic experience to heal himself. You can heal yourself through suffering and go into meditation. So the word of Christ is misunderstood. He was talking about self-love, going through your old pains, growing through the sufferings about your own life, and heal yourself. And from that healing power, you can share. But now we are giving from emptiness, and we are going into narcissism and into deeply helpers syndromes. Short sentence here, page 47, is about cultural relativism. So we are thinking that every culture is the same, and we let them all in. If you're coming from the Middle East, from Syria, from Afghanistan, from Bangladesh, from Sudan, from whatever, maybe 800 years ages backwards society, far away from our civilization, we are thinking we are giving a passport, and you're Dutch. Okay, you're Dutch now. Uh, but you're coming from a totally other conditioned society here. And we are thinking about cultural relativism. Every culture are the same. Every people are the same. And we're thinking we are unequal. Maybe there are a little difference in religion. Maybe we are a little different in our social behavior. Maybe we are different walks on the streets. Maybe some groups are walking peacefully, and maybe some people are walking more aggressively on the streets. Maybe people are wearing other clothes than us, but actually we are the same. We have a slightly differences, but overall every culture is the same, right? That's the cultural relativism view. And he said it's very dangerous because you neglect, you reject the sensitive spots and you neglect uh, and disturb the integration process in, yes, I think the super Western society. So super Western society with all their courts, all their court members who were raised up, who get educational knowledge. We build up really a civilization here. We have to protect that civilization. So not every culture is the same, and not every culture is on the same spiritual consciousness level. So we must be critical about this cultural relativism to say every culture is the same. Nothing is more unequal than the equal treatments of unequals. And that's an interesting sentence, right? Nothing is more unequal than the equal treatments of unequals. So we have to accept there are different cultures, and different cultures are in different evolutionary stages of development, and that's okay. It's okay that cultures are different. It's okay that cultures are moving in other evolutionary cycles. That's okay, but we have to protect our civilization. And what you now see, there's a lot of people are coming into the Western society. Then the question arises in which culture you have to integrate if all your neighbors are from the third world. So has to integrate a third world immigrant into the third world now in London or something. So that kind of question you're gonna ask, why to integrate, in which society you integrate now if 60-70% of your neighborhood is people with an immigrant background, and those communities were coming in the Netherlands. They were putting all those people in one neighborhood, and they become more protective towards the Dutch society. They were going more inward, and they were actually going back to their old traditional roots. So it was not integration, it is an anti-integration integrative mechanism. So more radicalization and more inward spirals of communities. So also there, I think, more reasons to go into remigration or spread more the people in your countries around. So also there, it's segmentation and not integration there. Want to read something about 115? People are equal under law, yes, people are equal under law, but they are not equal in their innate talents, ambitions, and preferences, right? So, from your culture, from your backgrounds, from your DNA, maybe, people are not the same in their talents, in their ambitions, in their preferences. So there are differences in attitudes, in backgrounds, and you can see cultural difference, and that's okay. We are different. A man is different than a woman. Someone who comes from Sudan have different mentality than someone who's grown up in the Western societies. Yes, we are different, so we have to make also policy for that, and it's nothing from about. Page 159. Suicidal empathy is inherently blind to causal thinking. Interesting topic. Another time, suicidal empathy is inherently blind for causal thinking, causal rational thinking. It wallows in the world of first order effects. If millions of refugees wish to come into your country illegally, please be empathic and let them stay. Come in, let them stay. Problem solved. Problem solved. Right? So what we did, millions of people are coming, they get a passport, they get a language course here and there. Problem solved. Suicidal empathy is inherently blind for causal thinking. People has no passport. Maybe people were too long in the refugee procedure and we give them a general pardon. Oh, this procedure took 10 years. Oh, you're now 10 years in the Netherlands, so we give you a passport. That happened in the Netherlands. And not thinking, okay, we have to make this procedure very short. After 3 months from coming in, you know where you are. That's healthy for the person, healthy for the refugee, healthy for us. And it's very shameful to let people 10 years in refugee centers and wait 10 years for the decision if they can stay in the Netherlands or not. Shameful. Very mentally disturbed, shameful for let those people in insecurity. Nothing is more painful mentally to let people in insecurity and not knowing where they are and which stage of their life they are, what they want to go do in the future. So clearance, direct actions, what are you standing, what's your position at this moment. So instead we are making the procedures very short. We took sometimes 10 years for people to know where they are, if they can stay in the Netherlands or not. So what we did, we give them a general pardon. We say, okay, you can stay because you're already 10 years here in Dutch society and probably you know the language a little bit and you integrated. So we give you a passport and you can stay, problem solved. So that is what you're doing, right? With suicidal empathy, you give the crocodile, the big crocodile, right? The fat crocodile, you give them a candy and now he's quiet. Now he's quiet for some moments. But then you have more social welfare to keep the big crocodile quiet, right? So suicidal empathy is a little bit of afraid rejection too. From actually, we are scared for all those immigration. Maybe civil war is coming. Maybe they use violence towards us on a certain moment. So we giving candies away to stay quiet. Oh, yeah, we give them a passport, general pardon. It's all fine, problem solved. With no causal thinking about, okay, there are language barriers, there are integration problems already with a lot of groups. What are the innovative qualities of these people, how they can integrate in society? Do we really need these people? A rational argument about the mass immigration. So we're not thinking about the future, what we doing, what we want to do with our land, how we want to shape our country in a demographic way. So suicidal thinking is a kind of panic reaction and a quick problem solve method from, okay, you want to be Dutch, we're giving you a Dutch passport and everything is solved. Future consequences be damned. If millions of people enter your country legally, albeit they stem from societies they're perfectly antithetical to your values, they're in contradiction to your own Western values, do not worry about it. It will all work out. Yes, it come all good. It will be okay in a few years. Right? So that's what you see. They will assimilate. Be empathic now. The future will sort itself. Empathic now. For tomorrow we might be dead. Rational people who are not suicidal empathic can see beyond the prison of first order effects. So you see, left-wing liberals are not thinking about the future. They're not can think about the first, beyond the prism of the first order effects. They cannot see the bigger picture. They cannot see the whole world in one helicopter view to see where I talked about. It's better to have those people in their own country, to have a big labor force there, to build up their own country. There are cheap building materials, agriculture. There's so much to do in those third world countries. Also, the high skilled people there. It's better for the whole world. They cannot see the bigger picture, the helicopter view. They don't have the brains to think about what you want to reach with your own country and what you want to reach with the whole world ultimately, to then to let all those people in a quick fixed in a kind of quick fixed solution, right, from those empathic conditioned society. What causes those stinky deeper wounds? Because you're a soft healer, right? So that is what you're seeing in the psychological dynamics of the mass immigration. Very good book. And also, what is good about this book is that he wrote 50 pages of notes. That's a bunch. He really was going to scientific knowledge, very scientific, deeper material, and make a lot of notes in his books, referring to notes. So it's a very scientific, deep research about the dynamics of the mass immigration. So that's um, that's the whole book about this civilizational suicide of the Western world, the rapid decline, and the terms I should recall it is suicidal empathy, moral self-fulfillment, inverse morality. That are the very interesting words to understand this, why this whole mass immigration was coming to us. And although there is ultimately no why that explained, I explained it already to you, where there is no why, and there will be no why, and some remigration will be healthy for the Western world to survive and to hold it also peaceful here, right? So, or maybe civil war is coming, religious civil war, more tensions, people have nothing to lose. Or we're going to the remigration way, and we are have a situation where we maybe can prevent violence, right? So we can maybe prevent a civil war to go into remigration. And also, I think it's good for the third world and also for the second world countries, right? Also to get their people back, to get their people back to work on a great country and to make all the world a better place. And that's what I want to say to you. To otherwise you put me in a racism frame or whatever. I want to take care of all the world. I want to make the world a better place. So it's for a whole world better, that people have their high skilled or middle skilled and their low skilled people back, and to work on those countries and to invest also. That's what I want to say too. It's good as West Europe countries, the rich countries, to invest in businesses over there. If there is an investment stream towards businesses, the chance on war is lower because there is a lot of dependent on financial losses there. So invest in those countries. That's the best way to prevent war also and poverty in those third world countries. So more equalizing the whole world, right? Thank you for watching, and I see you by the next book report. Bye bye.